Don't we all have a fascination with, or at least a curiosity about haunted houses, ghosts, poltergeists, or whatever you want to call those things in the world that we don't understand? I thought that with the fall season here and Halloween coming up, I'd do a video today about haunted houses. What if you think your house is haunted and you want to get the heck out of there? Do you have to disclose that it's haunted or that at least you think it is? Let's talk about that today. The other thing I thought I'd share with you today is about my favorite ever scary movie. It scarred me for life when I was a kid, and the effects have lasted a long time. Even though I'm almost 50 years old now, I still get scared about certain parts of that movie. So we're going to look at the house that was a setting for my ultimate scary movie. So don't miss that. Here we go.
All things real estate and all things real estate.
So I just wanted to say straight out that I've never represented a seller who thinks their house is haunted or a buyer who thinks they might be buying a haunted house. But honestly, I'd kind of love to, right? How fun would it be to experience some of that oogie stuff, that gives you chills in the hallway and things like that. Seriously though, what if you want to sell your house and you think it's haunted? Do you have to disclose that? The short answer is no. Here in Texas, there's no obligation to disclose that kind of info. A more common thing that I have dealt with that's kind of related to haunted houses is a situation where there would be a death in the home. What do you think that has to be disclosed there? Well, the law in Texas is that you have to disclose a violent death, meaning a murder, but you do not have to disclose a natural death or a suicide. Would you as a potential home buyer want to know if someone had died in the house, regardless of how? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Well, let me know in the comments. As an agent, I've dealt with both natural deaths and suicides, but not with any violent deaths. Although I did sell a house down the street from a house where 2 murders took place, the Darlie Routier case in Rowlett, and if you're local, you know what I'm talking about. It was a pretty terrible situation where a mother killed her 2 children. Really oogie, I know. That house has been bought and sold several times actually, and it's kind of morbidly fascinating. Here's a picture of the house itself. It's off of Eagle Drive in Rowlett, and I just looked it up out of curiosity to see if I could find out anything about the last house sale and if they disclosed that a violent death took place there. Here's the page of the Texas Seller's Disclosure. This is one version, and there's actually another that's more detailed. But you can see here the place where it asks sellers, are you aware of any of the following? And then one of the questions is, any death on the property except for those deaths caused by natural causes, suicide, or accident unrelated to the condition of the property. And the sellers of the Routier house on Eagle did mark yes to this part of the disclosure, as they should have, to be legally sound in sharing what they know about the property. So good for them. Question for you. Would you buy a house where a murder had taken place? I don't think I could, honestly. I know a lot of people would if they got a good deal on the property, which actually commonly is what happens to these kind of homes. We have actually a word for these kind of homes in the biz, and they are called stigmatized property. And the National Association of Realtors describes these as properties that have been psychologically impacted by events such as murder, suicide, alleged hauntings, or notorious previous owners. This kind of stuff for sure can affect property values, and therefore buyers can get good deals on them. Going back to stigmatized houses because of an alleged haunting, since that is the original topic of this video, I did some research to see if any studies have been done on whether people would be okay buying a house they thought was haunted or might be haunted, since, of course, there's a lot of people out there in the world that don't believe in such things. Not sure if I'm one of them or not. I don't know. Let's think about that. I did find in one study from 2021 that nearly a third of respondents, about 30%, said they'd be willing to live with a friendly ghost. 63% said they'd be willing to live in a haunted house at a discounted price. How much of a discount are they expecting? Most said they would expect more than 20% off of the market price for a haunted home. And let's switch that to violent death, murder, the stuff we talked about before with the Routier house. A study looked into that as well. 69% said that if a murder had taken place in the home, they would expect more than 10% shaved off the market price. And I was surprised by that. I honestly thought that was really low. But get this, only 20% said that they would be willing to live in a home where a murder has taken place. And honestly, I think I'm in the 80% that's like, no thanks, I don't want to live in a murder house. I'll find another one. So back to the question, what do you do when you want to sell a house and you think it might be haunted? In Texas, like I said, we don't have to disclose to anyone we think that the house is haunted. Thank goodness, because as I said before, that does affect your property value if people think it's haunted. However, I will say the court system in our country has made some rulings that you'd want to be aware of if you wanted to sell your haunted house. And it really comes down to the way you, as the seller, might have dealt with the alleged hauntings. That honestly surprised me a little bit, that it's the actions of the seller that impact whether that kind of thing has to be disclosed. Let me tell you what the situation was with one case and with what the court said. The case is out of New York, and it was litigated in 1991. And it's kind of a famous or infamous case in the real estate world because the house is known as being officially haunted as a matter of law because the court ruling said it was. What happened was that a buyer sued the woman who sold him the home after she didn't tell him it was supposedly haunted. And the principal issue was that the house had that reputation because she, as the seller, helped perpetuate that. After he completed the purchase of the house and then found this out after the closing, the man filed suit to rescind the sale. Apparently, the seller enjoyed the home's notoriety while she owned it because she'd reported the existence of spectral apparitions in her home to the media. But once she went to sell her home and probably got worried about those apparitions affecting her sale price, she decided not to mention any of that fun paranormal activity to her buyer. When the court ruled in favor of the buyer, they said that the seller should have disclosed the purported hauntings to him as she did to the public. So basically what this is saying is the ruling went against her because she presented the home to people in one way, and then when she was selling it, she presented it to the buyer in a different way. And that was seen by the court as wrong. And I can see what they mean. You can't have your cake and eat it too in this world, right? It's disingenuous, and in this case, the court found it illegal. So the lesson here is, if you have a haunted house, don't tell your friends and the public and the news about your friendly ghost that you have living in your home. Because if you do, you're eventually going to have to tell your potential buyer about it as well when you go to sell that house. Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about my favorite childhood movie, scary movie that freaked me out completely and that I still suffer from to this day. Okay, not really, but a little. Which movie am I talking about? Poltergeist. It came out when I was in the second grade, and somehow everyone thought it was fine to take 8-year-old me to the movie theater to see it. Those classic 80s parenting moves, right? No offense, Mom and Dad, if you're watching. Sorry. Anyway, I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks after seeing it, so my parents did pay a price for that. What's the movie about? The premise is that some developers have built a brand new neighborhood on top of an old Indian burial ground, which the developers knew about, but of course they didn't share it with the families who were buying these homes. And as I was looking for more info about the movie, I found an article that described the neighborhood as Spielbergia, which I thought was funny. And it's describing that quintessential look that Steven Spielberg liked to have in his movies. He didn't actually produce Poltergeist, but he helped write the screenplay. And apparently he always wanted a really typical suburban sprawl looking area. You can see that in Poltergeist if you watch it, and then you can also see it in E.T., which is another really famous movie by Spielberg. One of the things I found fascinating a few years ago when I got curious about the movie is the fact that the house that they used for the exterior shots is actually a real house. It's in Simi Valley, California. The home itself was actually a really central character to the movie, and it had that classic 1970s, early 80s look to it. Apparently, also from what I read, the intent behind the somewhat generic look of the house was for it to feel familiar to people watching the movie. In the trailer, the narrator even says, "The house looks just like the one next to it, and the one next to that, and the one next to that." Like that was a good thing. Spielberg and others making the movie wanted it to be sort of in every home. And because of that, it would be easy for a movie watcher to get themselves psyched up to think their own home would come and get them, like this home did. So even though the outside of the house was used a lot, the inside was done from Hollywood studios, like a typical movie would be done. And it's what's inside, what happened inside the house that had me freaked out as a kid and kind of freaks me out to this day. And it's the part where the family is just starting to experience the paranormal stuff, when things are still pretty fun and friendly, and the poltergeists were just doing kind of funny stuff before any of the not so fun kidnapping of their baby girl and that kind of stuff. Yeah. The mother and daughter are in the kitchen, and then the mom leaves for just a second to go grab something, and she comes back in really quickly. And when she comes back in, all the cabinets and drawers were open. I know, it doesn't even sound scary when I say it, but for some reason, it just really got me and still gets me to this day. I think it's because the fact that toys coming alive and stuff flying around the room isn't that believable or easy to imagine, but I can easily relate to drawers and cabinets being all left open by some mean spirit in a house just to freak people out. And it does, it freaks me out. Anyway, I went back and watched it a couple years ago just to see what I thought about it now. I wondered if it would age well or if it would be super cheesy. And surprisingly, I thought it aged pretty darn well. I mean, of course, some of the special effects weren't really up to par and what we expect these days, and some of the acting was a bit stilted and weird. But overall, the movie was pretty good, and I would actually watch it again if I had a chance. One of the things I found super interesting now, being a real estate broker, was that the ideal house was the ideal house back then. The inside of the house was supposed to be the latest and greatest in what the ideal home was like back then because it was a brand new house. And so you get that 70s and 80s look, and it's super fun to see. One of the weird things is that the staircase is curved, and it's in the middle of the darn house. It's weird to look at now, but I'm pretty sure that people back then were probably like, wow, I want my house to look like that. It's always crazy when we look back at that stuff. Okay, well, that's all I've got for you guys today. This is one of my longer videos, so thanks for sticking in there with me. I hope you got some fun takeaways, like that you don't have to disclose that ghost that lives in your closet to your home buyer, unless you've made it a big thing to all your friends and family and the media, and then you do. Sorry. I would love to hear about your experiences with haunted houses, ghosts, scary movies, stuff like that. And P.S., I have a ghost experience I might want to share with you guys at some point. If you want to hear about that, let me know in the comments. And as always, if you have any important real estate questions like what you have to disclose when you sell your house, I am, of course, am always happy to help. And I'd like to see you next week on another edition of All Things Real Estate. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
All things real estate and all things